If you are on the fence if you should upgrade your AirPod Pro 1s to the AirPod Pro 2s, this video is just for you. I took the liberty of purchasing the AirPod Pro 2s, and right now I have some comparison to it. I want to go ahead and talk about the active noise control inside the AirPod Pro 2s versus the AirPod Pro 1s, the charging case, the air comfort of the AirPod Pro 2s versus the AirPod Pro 1s, and also the sound quality between the two. For this video, I'm actually going to just consider them to be generation 1 versus generation 2, just to make it easier, because saying AirPod Pro 1 and AirPod Pro 2, it is a tongue twister and I am messing up already, but we're going to say generation 1 versus generation 2. And I'm actually going to throw in one more thing, one more feature to the AirPod Pros or the generation 2s that I really like that's over the generation 1s, and it's similar to the video that I just posted in regards to the AirPod Pro 1s versus the AirPod 4s. This feature also exists in the generation 2, and we'll get into that at the end of the video, but let's sit back and let me go ahead and just advise to you what I think about the generation 2s versus the generation 1s. Let's get into it. All right, so let's first start off with the active noise control, ANC. And yes, I've been saying that wrong the whole time. I've been saying active noise control. It is not active noise control, it is active noise cancellation. Now, in the generation 2s, I would say that there is a noticeable difference between the ANC over generation 1. And Apple, as they may say, that they boost that it's actually a 2-time better ANC than the generation 1, and I would say that I could definitely agree with that. There is a difference as far as like there's more isolation as far as the background noise, and as I mentioned from before, and I'm going to mention inside this video, these headphones that I actually use, I do a lot of editing on a Final Cut Pro. I'm listening to different types of music when I'm at the gym, or I'm just listening to different things as far as like if I'm taking a brisk walk and I'm listening to different podcasts, and it does eliminate the environmental sound that's around me, which is great. It does do it way better than the generation 1. Now, I would still say the generation 1 is really, it's still good. It was really good for the amount of years that I actually had these, but I would say that there's a definite leg up on the generation 2s over the 1. And one of the reasons why is due to this whole new chip that's actually embedded inside the generation 2s over the generation 1. And this chip itself is giving, the H2 chip is actually giving the headphones just a little bit more boost, so just a little bit more ability to drown out that background noise, so you can actually hear a truly immersive experience as far as whatever you're listening to, whether it be some music or you're listening to a podcast or you're listening to an audiobook, or if you're just like me, like I said from before, sitting here editing a video and you really need to be in depth in the video and you didn't want to have muffled or big earphones on you at this time. So I always like the fact, because that was one of the things that I always edited with, the big headphones as far as they cover your ears, because I needed everything to be nice and quiet. But with the generation 2s, it is giving me that same feedback that I actually need to make sure that I'm hearing the things that I need to hear. And luckily, being that with the silicone tip on the generation 2s, also in the generation 1s, I'm actually hearing those highs. I'm hearing those speeches, so I can tweak the audio. I would definitely say it's a leg up on the generation 2s versus the generation 1 when it comes down to the active noise cancellation. So let's move on to one other thing, and that's going to be the charging case. Now, this one, by far, the generation 2s are over the generation 1s. And here's the reason why. On the bottom of the charging case, there are actually speakers that's built in. Similar to the AirPod 4s, there's speakers on the bottom of the charging case itself that will let you hear an audible sound, like when you place it on the MagSafe charger, so you can hear that it's charging. Different things, like say for instance, which I have done, is put the incorrect earbud inside the wrong case, and you're gonna get that warning on the phone as well. The other thing that this definitely is one of the biggest things that I would say, even for me, and I made this very clear on the previous video that I had, that I lose mines constantly. So now with the Find My feature, you can actually hear where your AirPods are. Yes, you can actually hear it, rather than just having, you just seeing something on your phone as far as saying where it could possibly be, or the location or the range to where it's in. You can actually just hear it now. It's similar to like if you were to lose your Apple Watch, and it would just it would give off that audible signal as far as saying like, and you can actually hear where it is. You can keep tracking it till you get there, and also with your iPhone. But now you can actually have this on the case, or it's actually built into the case on the generation 2s, which is a game changer for me because, like I said from before, I lose my things every single day, and I'm surprised that I actually have them right now for this review, but I'm constantly losing them. So this is one thing that's a leg up for me. The other thing about the case that I do want to mention is the fact, oh, this is huge. Now you can actually see not only just the general vicinity to where your charging case is or your earbuds are, you can actually GPS to them, and not GPS meaning you can you could Google Maps to them. Your phone itself will now have a screen that which shows you in the direction that you're going, where it's located, and it'll actually get like the circle gets nice and narrow as you're narrowing down to the location of where it is. So for instance, if I'm sitting on the couch and it falls between the cushions, which it always does, now I know exactly which cushion is falling between, rather than just knowing, hey, it's somewhere in the living room. I can actually just use my phone and kind of move around, and now you can actually see where it's honing in to where it is. And once it actually hits that location, it will say like it's with you, or the circle gets smaller and letting you know exactly where it is. So by far, that is the one thing, if you are on the fence, if you're anything like me and you lose these things constantly, oh my gosh, that's one of the things that you could just basically say, just go ahead and just take your generation ones. You could go ahead and trade them in if you possibly can, or sell them to somebody else, or just give them to a nephew or niece or somebody that needs a pair of earphones. Please sanitize them first and just go ahead and upgrade to the generation 2s, because that is the one feature that I just needed. That was it. They had me sold on that when I saw it come out on the preview, and as far as they were mentioning everything, all the features in here, I was sold. So that is the take on the charging case. And also, the other thing that I would say, the charging case does have an H1 chip in there, and that's what gives you that ability to be able to use those different things as far as like tracking the phone and seeing exactly where it's at. But it also do notice that there is a slightly faster charge that you're getting due to this H1 chip that's built inside the case over the generation 1. So that's something to consider as well. I'm just noticing like a slight difference in getting a little bit more charge, not a little bit more charge, a little faster charge than the generation 1. And that's kind of expected. You know, with each product or each iteration of a product, it's going to get better and better and better. But I'm actually seeing that in the generation 2s, which I do like, because again, waking up to earbuds that's actually charged, or if you're just using one and you're switching it out to use the other one, or if you have both of them at the same time and you have a powered up case and you can put them in there and get a faster charge on there, so you could keep the party going. That's always a big win in my boat. Hopefully it's a big win in your boat as well. The next thing I want to move on to is the air comfort. Now I'm going to go ahead and take out both of these so you guys can take a look. So again, this is generation 1 versus generation 2. Now there's really not such a big difference in the AirPods. There's really not. They actually look the same. The only thing that I would say, one noticeable difference is right here. I don't know if you can actually see that right here on the top of the generation 2s, there's another type of speaker, somewhat kind of like doing something where you can actually just take in the sounds from the environment, so that actually enhances the overall experience when you're using the generation 2s. Now they feel about the same, exactly. They put them inside your ear. That one thing I would definitely say is that you are getting 3 different ones right here. I have the ones that just came on here, but you're getting the extra small, you're getting the small, and you're getting the large. So right now I have the medium silicone tips in here because they fit my ears and I didn't have to change them out. It feels exactly the same in my opinion for the generation 1s versus the generation 2s. So there's not really much of a difference. I would say for my ears, and in my previous video I was mentioning the AirPod 4s, without the silicone tip they fall on my ears. It just happens. That's just the way my ears are. But with the silicone tips on the Pros, I'm noticing that I don't get that feedback, but I don't get the fact where the earbuds are falling out of my ear, and I do not like that sensation when it's feeling like it's gonna fall. Say if you're going for a ride and the left one feel like it's gonna fall out if you didn't have that silicone tip, and they feel about the same. So I would say they're about pretty much even on that. I do understand like some people do not like the fact that the silicone tips go a little bit deep into their ears and they can feel pretty constricted, but in my case here, that's not the case. I love that feeling. I love the fact that having that total sealing sensation as far as having the earbuds in my ear. And also want to reiterate the fact that if I shake my head, they're not going to fall out. So again, between the generation 1s and generation 2s, I noticed really no difference. They're about the same size, so we could go from there. I did want to move back just a little bit and talk about the charging case one more time, and they're exactly the same. They are the same size. I don't see any major difference. Again, the only things between the two is just going to be the speakers on the bottom, and also you have this little lanyard, kind of like kit that you can actually hook a lanyard up to it, or string that you hook up to it, which is really cool because again, for the most part, you can have it like dangling on your wrist, you could dangle it from your keychain, or you could dangle it from like your belt buckle and such. I'm actually going to reference a case that I got here, which I really love, and I'll link it in the description below. But this case right here, it's like a tank. Like, this thing is super hard. It's not really flimsy like the silicone ones that you could pick up for like, you know, $4 and such on Amazon. But this one is a really good one. It actually has like metal, not metal, but magnets inside here, so it locks up. Just for this illustration, as far as showing the difference between the two, I wanted to make sure I take this off, but I'll link this and I'll put it together so you guys can see exactly how it looks once this is in the cage. And this gives a really protective layer onto your AirPod Pro 4, your Pros 2s, generation 2s, and this is why I really like that. So I'll link it below just in case you guys are interested, but this is what I use on these. The other thing that I want to move to is the sound quality. Oh, the sound quality between the two. I can't wait. I think we have a big difference between the two. Now, I'm not going to say it's huge. I'm not going to say it's like jumping leaps and bounds, but it's a very noticeable difference. And again, this is going back to that H2 chip that's built into the headphones. I'm noticing more bass. I'm noticing higher highs and crisper sound when I'm editing, and also when I'm listening to things, especially when I'm listening to the spatial audio or have spatial audio turned on. The bass that's being represented or reproduced out of the generation 2, it is better than the generation 1s. And as you know, you're probably watching the video because again, you have the generation 1s, and you know the bass on the generation 1s, they're definitely there. But once you hear the bass on the generation 2s, you're like, okay, who just threw two 12s in the back? I'm just saying, like, if you know what I'm talking about, tell them my age, but don't worry about it. But again, the bass and also the sound representation on the generation 2s due to this H2 chip, that is definitely giving a leg up on the generation 1s. The other thing that I noticed on the generation 2s when it comes down to the sound is the spatial audio that I mentioned from before. Again, if your phone is situated here and you're turning your ear around here, it's just a crisper sound that I'm actually getting out of that. Before, on the generation 1s, and I know this is probably just my ears, probably been just sensitive, I just noticed there was a little dip when I turned my head around different ways, and that could just be me just over analyzing the fact that my phone is here and I'm listening to things here like due to the spatial audio. But I'm just noticing that it's a little bit crisper on the generation 2s versus the generation 1s. I know everybody's ears are different, and this is just my opinion as far as what I have seen so far. The next thing I wanted to go into is the bonus tip, and that is talking about the conversation awareness. This thing, and I've talked about this in the previous video that I had between the AirPod Pro 1s and the AirPod 4s, but now that the AirPod Pro 2s are out, it has that conversational awareness feature as well. First, when you put these earphones inside your ear and you're listening to music and it's turned on in your phone, and somebody comes over to you and starts talking to you, you're looking over and you say, huh, I'm sorry, what'd you say? And all of a sudden you notice the music just drop. You're like, okay, who's playing with the phone? Where's my phone at? I know the phone's in my pocket. Is somebody touching the phone? Or as you had this before, I'm pretty sure this happened to you, that your AirPods are connected to one of the different devices, the Apple devices that you have, and it could be, for my case, it'll be one of my kids, and they're trying to turn it down and trying to turn it up, trying to figure out where is this signal going because it's no longer on my iPad. But this is actually due to the fact that you're actually talking, and the earphones are realizing like, hey, you're having a conversation, let me lower things down. And it doesn't just apply to music, it applies to YouTube videos, it applies to audio books that you're listening to, it applies to anything that's coming in to the headphones as far as like any type of audio signal. And that is actually pretty cool because again, it wouldn't stop the music though. The music will keep going, or it wouldn't stop the book, but it lowers things down so you can have the conversation with the person, you can hear what the person is saying, and once you're all done, it will just rise back up to the levels that you have from before, you can continue on. I think that by far is one of the greatest things that you're getting between the AirPod Pro 2s, the generation 2s, and also the AirPod 4s, because that by far, how many times did you have to take out your AirPods and just, you know, say something to the person like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm on the phone, hey, I totally didn't realize that. But now you can actually just have the conversation, everything lowers down, and you can have the conversation and you can move back on and everything goes back up. The one thing I would say, the only downside to it is if you're on a phone call, because again, if you say huh to someone And you're now talking to the person in front of you and also talking to the person that's on the phone, and you're saying, hey, 1 second, they're saying, hey, 1 second to them. Or if you say, huh, to them, and it lowers, you can't hear what the other person generally is saying on the telephone call that you have. So that's one thing that you just got to kind of play around with. You got to kind of learn the new norm for that, because again, having that feature is just one of the things that I like as far as being in the generation 2 versus the generation 1. So just consider that when you do have them in. Other than that, I would say my overall opinion, if you right now are having the AirPod Pro 1s or the generation 1s and you're on the fence about the generation 2s, do I recommend that you order the generation 2s and just kind of move on with life and stop going through all these videos trying to figure out should I upgrade or not? My answer to you is yes, especially if you're in a creative space, you're an editor, you're a person who uses your AirPods constantly throughout the day. It is definitely worth it. Why? And I'll just recap really quick. It is the fact of the matter is that the active noise cancellation is a little bit better than the number 1s and the generation 1s. The charging case, it is charging your AirPods just a little bit faster than the generation 1s. The air comfort, again, they're remaining the same, but the sound quality is what you will definitely notice as far as when you're editing, taking a run, if you're taking a bike ride, if you're taking a walk, you're going to notice the difference in the sound. And again, having good sound, especially when you're listening to your favorite track and you hear that bass hit and you hear that drum, that it just does something to you. You just like, the day is going to be all right. And that's what it's all about. If you're going to have a product, you want the product to treat you right, and you also want the product to just make things easier for you. That's the reason why we buy it, right? Just to feel good. So I would definitely recommend the generation 2s. If you have the generation 1s right now and you're in the position where you can upgrade, I would definitely do it. There is rumors that the generation 3s are going to be dropping pretty soon, but if you're in the market right now and you're just looking to get it upgraded, I would definitely recommend it. I wouldn't recommend just kind of holding off to generation 1s when you have all these new features that you can actually take advantage of right now and actually enjoy right now, rather than just waiting for another iteration to come out with the generation 3s. So hopefully this video was really helpful to you. Again, my name is Jay. I am an entrepreneur here in the Atlanta area and owner of J.August Media, where I always believe and I always want to say, if you're a small business owner, if you're a business out there, you definitely need to post your stuff online so people know that you're in a business to do business. So hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Until next time, let's go.